We start with Natsumi, a newly hired employee in the Shibuya Million ice cream shop. Together with her is the pink-haired punk named Takako, who is much younger than her. Natsumi is hardworking and has so much potential in her life. However, there is a deep reason why she ended up in an ice cream shop. She always carries out a ritual whenever she exits the shop's back door. Using chalk, she marks how high she can jump. In her mind, this allows her to visualize her potential when it comes to her career. Next, we see the brooding, enigmatic Saho. Her eyes reflect a bored, empty soul. She wanders around town, hoping to bring back any notion of feelings inside her. Saho happens to enter the little ice cream shop where Natsumi and Takako work. Right off the bat, Natsumi feels a sense of beginning upon seeing Saho. Perhaps it's her bored look, or her stylish, goth-inspired getup that has Natsumi hooked. Nonetheless, Natsumi remains on her toes as Saho inquires about ice cream flavors. After a few questions, Saho orders 1 scoop of Italian milk and another of minty fresh ice cream. Then she exits the establishment, leaving Natsumi with fluttering feelings. A few seconds later, Natsumi realizes she forgot to give the customer a coupon card. So she goes out of her way to run after the mysterious customer and give the card, even explaining its benefits and mechanics. The customer remains quiet despite Natsumi's timid explanations. For Natsumi, this meeting feels different. She has always felt in her heart that nothing has started yet, but she ran on impulse, intending to create a connection with her. Our last character to be introduced is Yu. She is a corporate office worker who likes to visit her favorite place, the Kosugi bathhouse. She befriends the owner, Mrs. Haru, and the rather grumpy assistant, Mary. She tries to help in doing chores. Mrs. Haru convinces her to buy some drinks instead of doing labor, but Yu politely refuses. She says she holds back whenever she's thirsty because of the picture of Mount Fuji, which makes her crave ice cream. And, speaking of ice cream, she goes to her next favorite establishment, Shibuya Million Ice Cream Shop. With a sweet treat to look forward to, Yu returns home. But when she gets there, she sees her niece, Miwa. This is unexpected because she has cut ties with her family members. Yu is curious to see the travel bag Miwa brought with her, so Miwa explains her sudden appearance there. Miwa intends to look for her father, which surprises Yu for the second time. Using nuclear bombs as her argument, Miwa reasons that it's better to spend time with loved ones while there's still time. No one can ever know when nuclear bombs could be launched, and everything will be over before anyone can do anything. Yu is speechless after that argument, but she eventually allows her niece to stay. The next day, Miwa shows her aunt the Instagram account of her father. Yu says nothing. Instead, she remarks about the familiar earrings Miwa wears. Yu knows Miwa's father, and also knows that he left his daughter when she was still young. As a way of convincing her aunt, Miwa says she's good at solving puzzles. In fact, she already has a general idea of where to look for her father. She only needs a safe place to stay. Since her mother passed away a year ago, Miwa wants to know more about her estranged aunt. Yu finally accepts the fact that Miwa will stay with her for a while, so she asks her to take some cleaning tasks as part of her household contributions. Miwa agrees. She's surprisingly good at her job. On the veranda, they both spot what looks like a cluster of pink fingerprints on the ceiling. Instead of cleaning it, Miwa uses duct tape to put a stem and a pair of leaves, making the print look like a flower. Back to Natsumi. She reflects on the trajectory of her life, particularly on the question of how long she will stay as an ice cream shop employee. She meets her good friend Kaoru, and through their conversation, we learn more about Natsumi's intentions. Natsumi is an art graduate who used to work in a design company. However, she experienced severe burnout due to the harsh work culture, which prompted her to resign and move away. Although she's uncertain about working in an ice cream parlor, she does find some solace there. She likes to doodle, her main avenue of letting her inner feelings out. She would create doodles and display them in the shop. She hasn't forgotten her desire to create. It's just that she's uncertain if she must leave the ice cream shop that has provided her with a much-needed reprieve from her career. One time, while doodling some stickers, Natsumi listens to Takako's story. Takako's innocence is reflected in how she views romantic love, as she's never experienced it before. But the story she relays is definitely burning with passion, to the point it leaves the person involved in pain. The story involves a colleague of Takako's mother, who shares her heartache. The colleague used to have a boyfriend, who was unfortunately stolen by her own sister. In the end, the boyfriend married the sister, and they had a child. The colleague severed ties with her sister and left their hometown without looking back. The colleague in Takako's story is actually Yu, and Miwa is her sister's daughter with her ex. That's why she's so surprised when Miwa announces she's going to look for her father. For Yu, she's not actually sure if she's made peace with her past. This makes her hesitant to help her niece. But at the same time, she feels an inkling to meet the man again. Miwa tells her she's found the company where her father works. Yu asks her about what she'll do once they meet him, but Miwa only gives a typical angsty teenage response. The next day, the aunt and niece go to the office of JJ Consulting, where Miwa's father works. Unfortunately, he's not there anymore. Miwa feels down despite the company's assurance to contact her once they have news about her father. To cheer her up, Yu brings her to a sports center. She also treats her to some ice cream popsicles. Yu remarks how this cold and sweet dessert unconditionally brings happiness to people all over the world. Miwa smiles as she agrees with her aunt. The next day, Yu brings Miwa to her favorite bathhouse. To Yu's severe disappointment, she finds out that the establishment will cease its operations soon. Mrs. Haru happens to be there, and she invites the aunt and niece inside and offers them some refreshments. Mrs. Haru explains that the idea of closing the bathhouse came to her out of the blue. She's getting older, and the prospect of living with her children becomes more and more enticing. Yu still can't believe that her safe place, the oasis for working women, is about to close. Then, she gets a random idea. What if she buys the whole place and starts operating the bathhouse herself? What will Mrs. Haru think? We go back to Natsumi and continue her story. She meets the mysterious customer again, who orders the same flavor of ice cream. Natsumi takes the courage to follow the customer. She finds her in an alleyway, quietly enjoying her dessert. When Natsumi asks why she likes eating ice cream, the woman says she likes cold and sweet. On the third time Natsumi meets the woman, she finally introduces herself and asks her name. The woman says she's Saho Hashimoto. Natsumi follows her again into the alleyway and asks why she likes to eat there. Saho says she's afraid of dry ice. The two talk more about how to make ice cream in general. In addition, Saho points out the doodles that Natsumi created for the shop. She encourages Natsumi to create more of those. Natsumi is grateful to hear that at least someone appreciates her work. She thinks her designs seem to lack meaning when they're brought to life. A sudden downpour of rain cuts their conversation short. Not wanting this to be their last meeting, Natsumi offers to show how to make ice cream without using dry ice. Saho thinks it sounds good and invites her to her place sometime. With the prospect of creating something with Saho, Natsumi buys some cookbooks to learn more about making ice cream. She also finds another book, which happens to be authored by Saho. Upon further research, Natsumi finds out that Saho is a talented writer, but hasn't written anything in 4 years. This makes the fans doubt her abilities as an author. In a way, Natsumi understands why there seems to be emptiness in Saho's eyes. Natsumi hides from Saho upon learning who she is, but Saho remembers her offer of making ice cream. So one night, Saho barges into the ice cream shop and demands Natsumi come to her apartment to make ice cream. Meanwhile, Yu is seriously contemplating the random idea of running her own bathhouse. Quitting her corporate job is not an easy thing. But the idea of running her own bathhouse, her own oasis of happiness and for other working women, has a great pull on her. Will she risk her stable life in her corporate job in the pursuit of her happiness? She comes home still full of thoughts about her new prospect when she discovers what Miwa has done. She has opened the misdelivered package that was meant for the previous renter of their unit. The package, which is a hanging butterfly ornament, is already swinging gently from the ceiling. Despite Miwa apologizing, Yu can't help but liken the teenager to her parents. Then she declares that Miwa should go back home, as there's no point in waiting for the company to call her. Miwa is hurt by this sudden indifference her aunt is showing. She accuses Yu of hiding something from her. Miwa is perfectly aware of the dynamic between her mother, father, and Yu. Still, just because Yu hasn't found her own peace and happiness, she shouldn't stop her niece from finding her own. Yu has had enough. Since cutting ties with her sister, Yu has worked hard to bring back the balance in her life. The bathhouse, her little trips to the ice cream shop, all those are her happy pills, even though they're not as much to other people's eyes. And now Miwa is talking about happiness, like she knows everything. If anything, it's Miwa who's stopping Yu from finding her own happiness. After this confrontation, Yu goes to the veranda to breathe some air. She realizes that Miwa is still too young to understand what really matters in life. She looks up to find the cluster of fingerprints, now looking like a flower thanks to Miwa's creativity. Yu realizes that Miwa's presence has actually helped her face her past and find what's important to her. Yu puts her pride aside and approaches her niece. She still has her ex's number, so they can try calling him. But it turns out somebody else already owns the number. They both laugh at this comical mistake. Then they go out to have some late-night parfait. There, Miwa tells Yu that she's decided not to look for her father anymore. Miwa understands that the man may not want to be found anymore. Yu sympathizes with Miwa as she makes her own realization as well that she's now over her past. Back to Natsumi and Saho. Natsumi arrives at Saho's apartment. She notices the stack of blank papers as if waiting for the author to put words on them. Natsumi hopes that, even in a small way, she can help Saho find that drive to write again. She diligently shows the steps in making ice cream as Saho watches intently. Then they have to wait for 2 hours for the ice cream to set. Waiting is boring, so Saho pulls Natsumi out into the streets to frolic. For the first time since Natsumi met her, Saho gives a genuine smile. It's like a new life has been breathed into Saho. Her stoic aura seems to be gone, replaced by a childish aura that makes Natsumi smile too. They return to the apartment right when the ice cream has set. They sit on the sofa where they share a bowl of dessert. But both of them are not oblivious to the tension between them that's been there since day one. They both lean towards each other, wanting to find out if that tension is real. The next morning, Natsumi wakes up alone on the sofa. She finds the uneaten bowl of ice cream, now being devoured by a black butterfly. Natsumi fails to catch the insect, and her fingertips drip from the pink ice cream. She follows the butterfly out to the veranda, where it has flown away without making a sound. Natsumi looks at her fingers and then up at the veranda's ceiling. She jumps and manages to create a pattern of clustered fingerprints. She feels hopeful that she can still fly high. After this fateful night, Natsumi decides to go back to her hometown. Saho is nowhere to be found, and her disappearance has been reported online. Meanwhile, Yu has finally decided to buy the bathhouse. When she talks to Miwa about it, she suddenly becomes inspired. Miwa can stay with her permanently, help maintain the establishment, and handle the reception. Yu looks at the earrings, which have fallen from Miwa's ears due to broken clamps. She feels a sudden urge of affection for Miwa, and by extension, her sister. Because in truth, Yu misses her sister a lot, despite the rift between them. The earrings used to belong to Yu, and she treasured them so much. But her sister wanted to have the earrings too, and because Yu loved her sister so much, she gave the earrings away. Since the sister passed away, Miwa is the only reminder of the sister, so Yu has decided to treasure Miwa too and treat her like her own daughter. After some time, things have gone back to normal in that little town. As Natsumi walks to the ice cream shop, she passes by the apartment where Saho used to live. There's a new tenant, but the fingerprints she left there have now been turned into a flower. To clarify, Saho used to rent the unit, and when she left, Yu replaced her as the new tenant. The fingerprint flower on the ceiling reminds us that people always leave their marks when they experience significant life situations. Natsumi has become the ice cream shop manager. Takako has resigned and decided to follow her own life path. Yu and Miwa are thriving following their decision to run the bathhouse. As for Saho, it has taken a long while after her disappearance, but she managed to make a comeback with a second book titled Love You for a Million Years. We see a flashback to when Natsumi and Saho almost kissed. The kiss didn't happen, but Saho asked about why the ice cream shop is named Million Ice. Natsumi explains that the pronunciation of the word ice is similar to a certain Japanese word I can't pronounce, which means, I love you, and can mean that even after a million years, one's true feelings will always be love.